Hello and welcome to a tutorial on how to extract video from a MiniDV camcorder. Specifically, in this video we will be covering the Panasonic PV-DV400D. The items that you will need for this are your camcorder. I will be using the Panasonic PV-DV400D, the DV tapes to be extracted, a DC 6V 2A power supply if you do not have batteries and a charger on hand, but to be fair, for convenience purposes, it might be better to get one of these, even though it's like 10 bucks, because you won't have to constantly swap out batteries if you have a lot of data to be extracted. We're also going to be using a Lynx Tech PCIe 139.4A FireWire 400 card. This uses the TSB43AB23 chipset. Now, depending on your camcorder, it may require a different chipset. I'm not sure for your specific needs. So to be sure, what I would do is I would just go into ChatGPT or a different AI chat bot and just ask it, what card do I need for my specific model? Enter your model in and you should get a good answer, and potentially some Amazon references. When I got Amazon references from ChatGPT, they actually were incorrect. So just make sure that you go and do your own research, take some screenshots, and relay that back to ChatGPT to make sure that the chipset is correct. For the Panasonic PV-DV400D, the TSB43AB23 chipset is correct. It does use a Texas Instruments chipset. You're also going to need a FireWire 4-pin to 6-pin cable that is included with the Lynx Tech PCIe 139.4A, and you can see that in the image here. It does include that. This item specifically, I believe, was about $25 on Amazon with free shipping if you have Prime. And then when it came to the power supply, that was about $8.99. So definitely a reasonable price instead of having to send these away to get processed. You'll also need a desktop PC with an open PCIe slot, or an Intel-only Mac. I'm not going to cover Mac for this. I was going to do it on my own with Mac instead, but you need like 3 or 4 different conversion cables. You have to go from FireWire to Thunderbolt 2, then up to Thunderbolt 3, and that's only if you have an Intel-only based Mac. The Apple Silicon-based Macs do not support this process any longer, so I would recommend only doing this on a PC. And then finally, you're going to need free DV capture software. In this tutorial, we're either going to use WinDV or Scenealizer Live. I guess it's Scenealizer Live, however you pronounce that. Whichever one is easiest to use. I'm going to play around with both, and then whichever one ends up being the easiest for us in this video, we're going to go ahead and use that one. So I'm going to test it out on my own, then I'll re-record, and whichever one ended up being easiest for me, that's the one you're going to see in the video. Again, we are not going to be covering Mac OS in this tutorial, but we may take the clips over to something like iMovie or Final Cut Pro, but that's something you can do on your own time. Okay, so getting into the items you need again, I have them right in front of me. Now, I will advise you guys that I was unable to find the correct power adapter for this camera, which is unfortunate, but that is just the way it is. They don't really make them anymore in the exact millimeter dimensions that fit. So in your case, maybe you'll be able to find one for your specific camcorder, and if so, that's great. But for me, I will have to just swap out batteries while I'm playing back video, which is fine because it actually ended up lasting a lot longer than I thought. So you can see in front of me I have one of the tapes we're going to be using today to capture for an example. I also have the Lynx Tech device itself. You can see that when we open up the box here, we have the cable which is included. This is your FireWire 4-pin to 6-pin adapter. You also have a static-proof bag which holds the chip itself, and a little cover plate type of thing, as well as a screw. Those won't be used in this video. I also have the power adapter, which I'm going to show off on camera, but like I said, this power adapter is useless at this point. Then we have the physical camcorder itself, the Panasonic PVDV 400D, and a battery. So on the physical camera itself, you can see that this, I believe, is a 1800 milliamp hour battery, or it might be a 1600 milliamp hour battery. So coming over to your computer, once you have the computer disassembled, this is a dummy computer that I'm using just for the sake of this video. You can see it is a pre-built Dell desktop computer. So you're going to see there is a small PCIe slot. It's the little black slot on screen that's to the left of the larger blue PCIe slot. You are welcome to use either one. On the computer that I'm going to be installing this chip in and actually using, my computer's PCIe slot is the full size. The chip will fit into the mini one or the big one. It doesn't matter which one you use. It will work perfectly in either slot. So we'll take the chip just for the sake of showing you guys on this video, and we're going to remove one of the tabs to allow for the I/O board to be displayed on the exterior. And we're just going to insert the chip into the PCIe slot as shown. And once we have the chip in, you can see that the ports are showing on the rear, which is perfect. That's what we want. And then we're just going to go ahead and take the cord that it was included with the Lynx Tech board, and we're going to plug that in to the PCIe. We're going to plug that into the Lynx Tech board port, FireWire port as shown. And then we're going to plug the other end of that cord into the camera itself, and we'll move on to the computer screen recording next. If you're using the Panasonic PVDV 400D, you will need to use battery, which means your battery will and potentially may die during recording. But the good thing is that WinDV does have features built into it where you can simply cancel the recording, save what it was able to capture, charge your battery, pop your battery back in, and you can start recording again and then take that information and either go into Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, whatever you want to do, and paste that all together, and you won't even know there's a difference. So it's a little bit of a process, but that's just the way it is. So you can see in the beginning here, just for an example, these were all from one tape. And I was like, okay, this is a little bit bizarre. Why is it taking sections? So we're going to get into that in a second and how you can prevent that. But the first thing I want to do, which is the next step. So again, we have our camera plugged in with the FireWire cable going from the camera to the new chip that we just installed. Now we're going to verify that the chip is actually working. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go into the device manager for your computer. And this is a really easy, simple step here, but I am going to make this bigger because my monitor is quite large and it's hard to see on your side if I don't make this bigger. So in our device manager, we're going to go to IEEE 1394 host controllers, okay? And when we click that, we can see Texas Instruments 1394 OHCI compliant host controller. Yay! That's what we want to see. If not, you're going to need to go into ChatGPT and do some troubleshooting steps onto how to fix this issue. This might be a driver problem. You might need to search for a legacy driver. You can scan for hardware changes and just to make sure it refreshes itself. But you may need to go do some research on your own as to why your computer isn't detecting the chip. For me, I had to do nothing. All I did was plug in the chip, turn my computer on, automatically detected everything. I was good to go. So if there is a detection issue, I would suggest you just do the troubleshooting steps on your own. Say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm doing this, YouTube tutorial on how to use my Panasonic, whatever. And I just plugged in my Texas Instruments 1394 OHCI compliant host controller and it's not working. What do I do? It will definitely run you through the steps. So now that we know that that is working, we are now going to make sure we have WinDV installed. So the way we're going to do that is we are going to type in download WinDV, And you're simply going to come up to this website here, which is http://windv.murex.cz. And that is the developer's website. I know it's a non-secure website, but at least from my experience, there's nothing wrong with this. You can't take that as canon, though, so maybe you can go to videohelp.com and get it from here. Again, this looks like a Softonics website. I don't know if there's going to be bloatware with this, so I don't know if I can recommend this to you, but that's up to you. So now that we have WinDV on the computer, we're going to go on to the physical camcorder itself, and we're going to switch it to the VCR mode, and then we're going to take the battery out of its charger if it was charging, and I'm going to just go ahead and pop that into the camera now. And now that that's in the camera, I'm going to go ahead and boot the camera up, and it is now turning on. So I will go ahead and open up WinDV for you. And if I hit the play button, you will see it will begin to configure. Now, I didn't have to do anything in this step. When you open WinDV, it should automatically detect Microsoft DV Camera and VCR. And you can see when I hit the 3 dots button right here, that is my only option. You're also going to see the capture file is going to save to this location. You can, of course, hit the 3 dots button and configure the location that you desire. So for me, I want it under blank tape label because it didn't have a label on this one particular tape. So that's how I'm currently keeping track of this situation. So the next step you're going to do is you're just going to hit the play button on your Panasonic camcorder and simultaneously hit the capture button. And you can see that the video starts to play here. Which, yes, this is me. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to just hit the stop button real quick, and I'm going to hit the cancel. And eventually, of course, I can restart this back up. But you can see here that if I go into blank tape label, the one that we just recorded is right here. Okay, and the quality is quite nice. I mean, considering how old this camcorder is, from what, 2000... I think the date is right here. 04. It always goes backwards. So 2004, I believe, March and the 17th of March. So yeah. So basically, what you want to make sure you do before you make any of these changes, or you even begin starting, is before you even begin doing anything, is you need to make sure you are in the configuration window. First thing you want to do, the max AVI file size, yeah, 22500 is fine because that's what, like 22 gigabytes. That's okay. But this is in frames, okay? So you may want to edit that. If for me at least, I did some research and it said that actually is in gigabytes and not frames. I'm not sure, but 2250 or 22500 has seemed to at least get me 15 minutes worth, and then it will cut and make a new file. The mistake that I had, though, which caused the problem of this, which was all of these random captures that were only like, let's see, yeah, 3 or 4 seconds long. This one here is 20 seconds long. We don't want that, right? So the way you bypass that is you hit the configuration button and you make sure your discontinuity threshold is at 0 and not 1. So when it was at 1, that's a really low threshold. 0 is just, it's not applicable. So now it's going to cut whenever it's able to or whenever it feels that it's safe. There have been situations where I believe that it just needs to cut based off of the way that the computer program is written, or that may have been the 22500 frame limit, and then it cut and restarted. Okay, so again, I'm going to run through the process one more time. What we're going to do here is we're going to open the WinDV program, we're going to hit the configure button, and we're going to make sure that the discontinuity threshold is at 0 and the max AVI file size is set to 2250 or 22500 or whatever you think is best for you. Okay? We're going to make sure that it's hit capturing from DV device, not recording. We're not recording anything. And we're going to go ahead and ensure that we have hit the play button after making sure Microsoft DV Camera and VCR is selected here, and your file path for saving is selected as well. We're going to hit the capture button, and then we're going to hit the play button on the physical camcorder, and you can see down here it will start to actually capture the different seconds here, okay? And then when we're done, if we want to cut it short, we can hit the pause button on the camera, and then we can hit the cancel. And what cancel will do is it will simply put it back into our folder, and we can see that what we just watched was this clip here with the dog at the end, okay? So that is essentially how you do this. It's really not hard. I think the hardest part for me was figuring out how to make sure the camera was charged properly. But otherwise, it was a very simple process.